In the ever-evolving landscape of global politics, there exists an undeniable force that transcends borders, governments, and national identities, an elusive network of elites that operates behind the scenes, shaping the direction of the world in ways most people fail to recognize. This network, often referred to as the New World Order, is not a conspiracy theory but a well-documented reality of the world's interconnected systems of power, finance, and politics. While the masses are preoccupied with national elections, political scandals, and mainstream media narratives, the true architects of global policy and control remain largely hidden, manipulating the levers of power to serve their interests. The New World Order is not a singular entity but a coalition of powerful individuals and institutions, international banks, multinational corporations, political dynasties, and media conglomerates, all working in tandem to centralize authority and reshape global governance. These elites maintain an iron grip on financial systems, ensuring that the global economy, political outcomes, and even the cultural landscape serve their agenda. As the world becomes more interconnected, these power brokers work to create a single, unified system that allows them to exert control over nearly every aspect of life. One of the most fascinating, and deceptive, aspects of this global power structure is how it maintains its grip on control. In the midst of all the noise of political movements, grassroots protests, and even revolutionary rhetoric, the New World Order operates with an almost invisible hand. At the forefront of this illusion is the use of puppet leaders, individuals who appear to challenge the system or stand as outsiders but ultimately serve as tools to further the very agenda they claim to oppose. One such figure is Donald Trump, a man who rose to prominence as a billionaire businessman and, eventually, the 45th President of the United States. To many, Trump represents a break from the globalist elite, a populist hero who promised to drain the swamp of corruption in Washington, D.C., and challenge the powers that be. However, a closer look at his actions, his connections, and the elite surrounding him suggests a different story, one where Trump is not the outsider he portrays himself to be, but rather a key figure within the larger plan of the New World Order. His rise to power, his presidency, and even his inauguration reveal a much deeper connection to the elite establishment that controls the global stage. In this video, we will delve into how Trump's inauguration, his ties to international elites, and the policy decisions made during his time in office all point to a deeper agenda, one in which he is not a rebel against the system, but rather an instrument of it. From his business dealings to his political alliances, we will uncover the ways in which Trump's rise to power aligns with the broader New World Order strategy of centralized control and global governance, all under the guise of populism and reform. 1. The dollar bill exposes everything. The US dollar bill isn't just a piece of currency, it's a coded manifesto of the New World Order hiding in plain sight. The back of the $1 bill is filled with symbols, Latin phrases, and hidden meanings that reveal the elite's true agenda. At the center of it all is the all-seeing eye, floating above an incomplete pyramid. This symbol, commonly associated with Freemasonry and the Illuminati, represents constant surveillance, a world where the elite keep watch over every move we make. The eye isn't attached to the pyramid, symbolizing that their total control isn't yet complete, but they're getting close. Below it, the pyramid consists of 13 steps, widely believed to represent the 13 ruling families who secretly control global finance, governments, and corporations. These families, such as the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and Windsors, are the real power behind the scenes, dictating world events from the shadows. Just beneath the pyramid, in Roman numerals, MDCCLXXVI, or 1776, we see what appears to be a reference to the founding of the United States. But in reality, 1776 was also the year Adam Weishaupt founded the Bavarian Illuminati, a secret society dedicated to global domination and the creation of a single world government. The placement of this date on the dollar bill is no coincidence, it's a direct tribute to the Illuminati's ongoing mission. Adding to the mystery, two Latin phrases appear on the bill. The first, Novus Ordo Seclorum, translates to New Order of the Ages, a blatant reference to the New World Order. This is an open admission that the US government has been part of this hidden agenda from the beginning. The second phrase, annuit coeptis, is often translated as, he favors our undertaking. But who is he? While some claim it refers to God, many researchers believe it actually refers to Lucifer, whom secret societies revere as the true bringer of knowledge and enlightenment. If this is true, then the US dollar isn't just money, it's a declaration of allegiance to something much darker. And if you still think this is just a coincidence, consider this: despite numerous redesigns of US currency, the symbols and messages on the $1 bill remain virtually unchanged since 1935. Why? Because this isn't just about money, it's about power, control, and a long-term agenda to shape the world under the rule of the elite. Every time you spend a dollar, you unknowingly participate in their hidden system of enslavement. The truth has been right in front of us this whole time, we just have to open our eyes. 2. Presidents are just talking heads. The idea that the US president is the most powerful person in the world is nothing more than an illusion. Every election, people are led to believe they have a choice, that their votes matter, and that a new leader will bring real change. But no matter who wins, Democrat or Republican, the same policies, same wars, and same globalist agenda continue. Why? Because presidents are nothing more than actors, playing the role of leader, while following a script written by the true rulers behind the scenes, the New World Order. If presidents really had power, why is it that every administration follows the same pattern? They promise hope and change, yet once in office, they expand government surveillance, corporate influence, and endless wars. Bush pushed the Patriot Act, Obama expanded drone strikes, Trump didn't drain the swamp, and Biden follows the same foreign policy playbook. No matter who is in charge, the military-industrial complex thrives, the Federal Reserve continues to control the economy, and globalist organizations like the UN and World Economic Forum gain more influence. The script never changes because the people writing it never leave office. This is because presidents are not elected, they are selected. The real power lies with the elite families, banking cartels, and secret societies that ensure only their chosen candidates rise to the top. Think about it, to even run for president, you need hundreds of millions of dollars in funding, media backing, and party approval. Who controls those things? Big banks, corporations, and secret networks like Skull and Bones, the Bilderberg Group, and the Council on Foreign Relations. These groups groom politicians for years, ensuring that no matter who wins, the agenda stays the same. And let's not forget how many presidents and top politicians come from the same secret societies. George W. Bush and John Kerry were both members of Skull and Bones, an elite Yale fraternity with deep ties to globalist power structures. Bill Clinton attended the Bilderberg meeting before his presidency, and Obama was handpicked by corporate backers before most people even knew his name. Trump, despite his outsider image, filled his cabinet with Goldman Sachs executives and military generals, proving that even he was part of the same system. At the end of the day, presidents are just public relations officers for the real rulers of the world. They give speeches, shake hands, and act like they're in control, but behind the scenes, the same unelected elites are pulling the strings. Whether it's war, economic policies, or globalist initiatives, the decisions are made long before an election even happens. The White House may change occupants, but the agenda of the New World Order remains the same. 3. The military-industrial complex runs the show. When President Dwight D. Eisenhower left office in 1961, he gave a chilling warning: beware the military-industrial complex. He knew that a shadow network of arms manufacturers, war profiteers, and defense contractors had gained too much power, and if left unchecked, they would dictate foreign policy, manipulate governments, and keep the world in a state of perpetual war. Decades later, his warning has become reality: the US government is no longer in control of its own military. Instead, a hidden alliance between weapons manufacturers, intelligence agencies, and global elites runs the show, using war as a tool to expand power and increase profits. Look at any modern war, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, Ukraine, and you'll see the same pattern. Conflicts aren't fought to defend freedom or spread democracy, they're orchestrated to feed the military machine. The US spends more on its military than the next 10 countries combined, not because of necessity, but because war is business. Defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Northrop Grumman make billions from endless wars, funneling money into both Republican and Democrat politicians to ensure that conflict never stops. These companies don't care who the enemy is, as long as they can keep selling missiles, jets, and drones. But the military-industrial complex isn't just about money, it's about global control. The Pentagon and intelligence agencies have engineered wars, toppled governments, and created chaos in nations that refuse to align with the New World Order. If a country resists Western control, it suddenly becomes a threat to democracy and must be invaded, sanctioned, or overthrown. The US has staged false flag operations, such as the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which escalated the Vietnam War, and used manufactured threats like weapons of mass destruction, WMDs, in Iraq to justify illegal invasions. Even 9/11 led directly to the Patriot Act and endless Middle Eastern wars, strengthening the military-industrial machine while stripping Americans of their rights. Meanwhile, the CIA and intelligence agencies work behind the scenes, training rebel groups, funding coups, and creating conflicts to justify military expansion. They armed the Mujahideen in the 1980s, which later became the Taliban, supported ISIS-linked groups in Syria, and orchestrated the Ukrainian coup in 2014. These actions aren't about defending America, they're about ensuring that the world remains unstable, giving the military-industrial complex an excuse to keep expanding. And let's not forget how the media plays into this. Every time a new war begins, corporate news outlets like CNN, Fox News, and MSNBC push pro-war propaganda, convincing the public that military intervention is necessary. Why? Because these networks are owned by the same corporations that profit from war. Former generals turned military analysts appear on TV, selling the idea of war to the public while secretly working for weapons manufacturers. At the end of the day, the US military is no longer fighting for the American people, it's fighting for the global elites who profit from destruction. Wars aren't meant to be won, only prolonged, because a world in chaos allows the New World Order to gain more power. With every invasion, every drone strike, and every military conflict, the military-industrial complex tightens its grip, ensuring that war remains permanent, and that true peace is never an option. 4. The Federal Reserve controls everything. Most Americans believe that the Federal Reserve is a government agency, responsible for keeping the economy stable and ensuring financial prosperity. But this couldn't be further from the truth. The Federal Reserve is not federal at all, it is a privately owned banking cartel that operates outside the control of the US government, printing money out of thin air and using it to enslave nations through debt. This is not just an American problem, this system is part of a global financial dictatorship, controlled by the New World Order's banking elite. The Federal Reserve was created in 1913, when Congress, under pressure from powerful bankers, passed the Federal Reserve Act in secret. This handed control of the U.S. money supply to private banking families like the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, and Warburgs. Since then, the Federal Reserve has dictated America's financial policies, manipulating inflation, interest rates, and the stock market to benefit the elite while keeping the average person trapped in an endless cycle of debt and economic instability. But the real scam? The U.S. government borrows money from the Federal Reserve with interest. Every time the government needs funding, whether for wars, bailouts, or stimulus packages, it doesn't print its own money. Instead, it borrows from the Fed, creating debt that must be repaid with taxpayer dollars. This is why the U.S. national debt has skyrocketed to over $30 trillion, because the system is designed to be impossible to escape. The government can never pay off the debt, only manage it, ensuring that America is permanently enslaved to the banking elite. And it's not just America. This same system has been exported worldwide. Almost every country now has a central bank controlled by the same globalist banking families. Nations that refuse to join this system, such as Libya under Gaddafi and Iraq under Saddam Hussein, suddenly find themselves invaded, overthrown, or sanctioned. The message is clear: join the central banking system or face destruction. The power of the Federal Reserve extends beyond economics. It allows the New World Order to dictate global policies. By controlling money, they control governments, corporations, and entire industries. They can crash economies, spark recessions, or create financial booms whenever it serves their interests. The 2008 financial crisis. A deliberate act, designed to consolidate wealth and bail out the same banks that caused the collapse. COVID-19 lockdowns. A financial reset, allowing central banks to print trillions while small businesses were wiped out, making people even more dependent on the system. And let's not forget the war on cash and the push for digital currency. The elites are rapidly working to eliminate physical money and replace it with central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, which will give them absolute control over every financial transaction. Once cash is gone, they can freeze accounts, block purchases, and enforce social credit systems, all at the push of a button. At the end of the day, the Federal Reserve isn't just a bank, it's a tool of global domination. It ensures that wealth stays in the hands of the elite families while the rest of the world is kept in a permanent state of financial servitude. The people don't control their money, the New World Order does. 5. The media is the New World Order's propaganda machine. Turn on the TV, open a newspaper, or scroll through social media, and you'll see the same narratives repeated over and over. It doesn't matter whether you're watching CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, or BBC, the stories, the talking points, and even the exact words are often identical. Why? Because the mainstream media isn't about informing the public, it's about controlling what they think. The media isn't free, it's owned and operated by the New World Order to manipulate public perception, push propaganda, and ensure that people never question the real power behind the scenes. If you trace ownership of the media, you'll find that 6 corporations control 90% of everything Americans watch, read, and listen to. These companies, Disney, Comcast, Warner Bros. Discovery, Paramount Global, Sony, and News Corp, are owned by the same elite families, Wall Street bankers, and globalist investors that control politics, finance, and big tech. This means the media is not independent, it's an organized tool of mass deception. The CIA has openly admitted to infiltrating and controlling the media. Operation Mockingbird, exposed in the 1970s, revealed that the CIA recruited journalists, paid news outlets, and planted stories to push government-approved narratives. Do you think that ever stopped? No. It only became more sophisticated. Today, intelligence agencies feed stories directly to mainstream news outlets, ensuring that every report serves the globalist agenda. The media's number one job is to keep people distracted, divided, and afraid. Distraction, instead of covering real issues, like the Federal Reserve's control over the economy or the influence of secret societies, the media focuses on celebrity gossip, trivial scandals, and meaningless outrage. If the public is busy arguing about pop culture drama, they won't pay attention to the power structures enslaving them. Division, the media thrives on creating left versus right, race versus race, rich versus poor, men versus women. Why? Because a divided population is easier to control. If people are constantly fighting amongst themselves, they won't unite against the real oppressors, the ruling elite. Fear, every day, the news is filled with crises, pandemics, terror threats, climate disasters, economic collapses, designed to make people afraid. A fearful population is easier to manipulate because they will accept government overreach, mass surveillance, and loss of freedoms in exchange for safety. And don't think social media is any better. Big tech companies, Google, Facebook, Twitter, now X, and YouTube, are all part of the same machine. These platforms censor alternative viewpoints, promote establishment narratives, and use algorithms to control what people see and believe. If you try to question mainstream narratives, your content is shadow banned, fact-checked, or outright removed. Look at how the media operates during wars, elections, and pandemics. The same stories, the same phrases, the same psychological tactics appear worldwide. The goal is not to inform, it's to shape public perception, manufacture consent, and ensure that the New World Order's agenda goes unchallenged. At the end of the day, the media isn't the fourth estate, it's the ruling elite's mouthpiece. It doesn't report the truth, it tells the public what to think, what to fear, and who to obey. The only way to escape this control is to turn off the mainstream media, question everything, and seek the truth for yourself. 6. Big Tech is spying on you and controlling what you see. Every time you search on Google, post on Facebook, send a message on WhatsApp, or watch a YouTube video, you are being tracked, analyzed, and manipulated. Big Tech is not about convenience, it's about control. The New World Order has weaponized technology to monitor every aspect of people's lives, censor dissent, and create a digital prison where free thought is nearly impossible. Think about it, who really owns and controls Big Tech? The answer isn't Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, it's the same banking elites, intelligence agencies, and globalist organizations that control everything else. Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, and Apple are all directly connected to the US government, intelligence agencies like the NSA and CIA, and globalist institutions like the World Economic Forum. These tech giants work hand in hand with the New World Order to build a digital surveillance grid, ensuring that no one can escape their watchful eye. Total surveillance and data collection. Big Tech's real business model isn't social media or search engines, it's data collection. Every post, click, and voice command is stored in massive AI-driven databases that track your behavior, interests, and even emotions. Smartphones, smart TVs, and even smart home devices constantly listen to you, while AI-powered algorithms predict your next move. Ever noticed how after talking about a product, an ad for it magically appears? That's because your phone's microphone is always on, listening for keywords. But it goes deeper than ads. Your data is being fed into AI systems that can predict and manipulate your thoughts, behaviors, and political views. And let's not forget facial recognition and biometric tracking. Every time you unlock your phone with your face or fingerprint, that data is stored. Governments and tech companies are working together to eliminate anonymity, ensuring that no one can move through the digital world without being identified, tracked, and categorized. Censorship and thought control. Big Tech doesn't just collect data, they control what people see and think. Google search results are rigged to promote establishment-approved information, burying anything that challenges mainstream narratives. Social media platforms shadow ban, deplatform, or outright erase accounts that question the government, vaccines, elections, or any topic that threatens the globalist agenda. And it's not just about deleting content. Big Tech uses AI-driven psychological manipulation to subtly shape public opinion. Algorithms prioritize outrage, fear, and division, ensuring that people remain emotionally reactive, distracted, and divided. Ever wondered why controversial topics suddenly trend worldwide at the same time? It's not organic, it's engineered. Twitter, X, Facebook, and YouTube have fact-checkers that aren't independent. They're funded by the same organizations that profit from the lies they claim to expose. The push for digital ID and social credit systems. The final goal of Big Tech is not just surveillance and censorship, it's total digital control. Governments, backed by the World Economic Forum and globalist think tanks, are pushing for central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, digital IDs, and social credit systems. With a digital ID, every online and offline action can be tracked, restricted, or approved based on behavior. Just like China's social credit system, this would allow authorities to punish or reward citizens based on their compliance with government policies. If you say the wrong thing online, question authority, or refuse a mandated vaccine, your access to money, travel, or even basic services could be restricted. Think this is far-fetched? Canada has already frozen bank accounts of protesters, the European Union is developing digital identity wallets, and big tech has been testing AI-driven trust scores for years. The pieces are already in place for a global digital dictatorship. The illusion of freedom in the digital age. Big tech sold us the idea that technology would empower us, but in reality, it has enslaved us. We voluntarily carry tracking devices, smartphones, install government-approved AI, smart assistants, and upload personal data to platforms that use it against us. At the end of the day, big tech is not about innovation, it's about creating a system where every thought, movement, and transaction is monitored, recorded, and controlled by the New World Order. The only way to resist. Stop relying on mainstream platforms, use privacy-focused technology, question every algorithm, and always ask, who benefits from controlling the flow of information? If you like this video, please give us a like, leave a comment and don't forget to subscribe, because we have a new video every week. Now, let's go back to the original topic, who is controlling you and how did they manage to use you like a brain-swayed slave to vote for them? 7. The education system is brainwashing the masses. From the moment a child enters the school system, they are not being educated, they are being indoctrinated. Schools are not designed to teach people how to think but rather what to think. The New World Order uses education as a mass programming tool, conditioning children to obey authority, accept the status quo, and never question the system. Think about it, who funds and controls education? Governments and corporate-backed institutions. Public schools and universities are heavily influenced by globalist organizations, including the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, and billionaire-backed foundations like those of the Rockefellers, Gates, and Carnegies. These elites shape curriculums to ensure that students never learn about the true power structures controlling society. Obedience over critical thinking. School trains children for a life of submission. Following orders without question. Memorizing information instead of analyzing it. Accepting government-approved history instead of questioning the past. Believing that authority is always right, even when it contradicts logic. Why do schools operate on strict bell schedules, dress codes, and standardized tests? Because they are not about education, they are about creating obedient workers who will clock in, follow orders, and never challenge the system. This is why traditional education never teaches financial literacy, so people remain dependent on debt and the banking system. True history, so people don't realize how they've been lied to for generations. Self-sufficiency, so people rely on the government and corporations for survival. Logic and debate, so people cannot effectively question mainstream narratives. Instead, students are bombarded with political agendas, meaningless busywork, and revisionist history, ensuring they never become independent thinkers capable of resisting the system. Rewriting history and controlling the narrative. History textbooks are written by a small group of corporate publishers, all of whom have deep ties to the global elite. This allows them to alter, omit, or fabricate historical events to fit their agenda. For example, wars are glorified instead of exposing how they are manufactured by elites for profit. Rebellions against tyranny are downplayed or ignored to discourage resistance. Central banking, the Federal Reserve, and global finance manipulation are never discussed. The dangers of government overreach are erased, making people think totalitarianism could never happen here. By controlling history, the New World Order ensures that each new generation is born into a carefully crafted illusion, unaware of how power really operates. Universities, the final stage of indoctrination. Higher education is not about expanding knowledge, it's about ensuring conformity. Universities are notorious for silencing dissent, enforcing ideological purity, and punishing students who question mainstream narratives. Students are buried in debt, forcing them into the corporate workforce just to survive. Alternative viewpoints are censored, ensuring that only establishment-approved ideologies thrive. Corporate interests fund research, meaning scientists and academics must align with globalist agendas to receive grants. Colleges push collectivism over individualism, making students believe that government dependency is the solution to all problems. Think about it, why do universities push globalism, climate hysteria, and identity politics while ignoring topics like central banking, media control, and real economic manipulation? Because the global elite want a population that follows orders, not one that questions them. The real purpose of modern education. The school system isn't about empowering individuals, it's about producing a population that is easy to govern, control, and exploit. The New World Order doesn't want free thinkers, it wants obedient workers, passive consumers, and brainwashed voters who will work endlessly without questioning why they are always in debt. Obey laws and pay taxes without asking who truly benefits. Consume mainstream media without recognizing the propaganda. Blindly trust the government, even as it erodes their freedoms. The solution? Real education comes from independent research, questioning authority, and learning outside the system. People must unlearn the lies they were taught in school and start thinking for themselves. 8. The healthcare system is designed to control and depopulate. The healthcare system is often seen as a tool for protecting life and well-being, but in reality, it is a critical part of the New World Order's agenda to control the population and profit off of human suffering. Instead of focusing on prevention, self-care, and holistic healing, the system is structured to treat symptoms and keep people dependent on pharmaceutical companies. It's not about curing diseases, it's about managing illness for profit. Pharmaceutical companies control everything. At the heart of the healthcare system is the pharmaceutical industry, which has a vested interest in keeping people sick and dependent on drugs. The top pharmaceutical companies, such as Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, and GlaxoSmithKline, are not public health providers, they are multinational corporations whose goal is to maximize profit by selling medications for chronic conditions rather than curing them. The New World Order's elites are deeply intertwined with the pharmaceutical industry. The same financial interests that control global finance, media, and politics, also own or fund pharmaceutical giants, creating a system where treatment is more profitable than prevention or cures. The result? People are prescribed lifelong medication, often for conditions that could be prevented through lifestyle changes, better nutrition, or access to alternative treatments. This creates an ever-growing market of sick, dependent individuals who are hooked on medications rather than being empowered to take control of their own health. Vaccines as tools of control. One of the most blatant ways the healthcare system is being used to control the population is through the vaccine agenda. While vaccines have certainly helped prevent certain diseases, the overreach and mandates pushed by global institutions, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, have raised red flags about the true purpose behind such programs. The World Health Organization, WHO, and global elites have long been pushing for mandatory vaccinations for every individual across the globe. This is not about protecting public health, it's about ensuring control. By creating vaccine passports, digital health IDs, and mandatory vaccine schedules, the New World Order seeks to create a centralized medical database that tracks every individual's health status, forcing compliance to global health policies. These policies go hand in hand with the push for population control. Some globalists have openly discussed the need to reduce global population growth, and vaccines, sterilization programs, and population control measures are seen as tools to achieve these goals. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, for example, has been linked to initiatives aimed at reducing the world population through vaccine distribution and reproductive health programs in developing nations. Corporate influence in healthcare. The healthcare system is not just manipulated by pharmaceutical giants, it's also heavily influenced by for-profit healthcare companies, insurance providers, and private hospitals that all exploit the system for financial gain. This has led to an over-commercialized healthcare system, where patient care is often sacrificed in favor of maximizing profits. Insurance companies regularly deny claims, and hospitals inflate bills for simple procedures, leaving millions of people without proper treatment because they can't afford it. Preventive care is often ignored in favor of expensive, long-term treatments that can drain families financially. The depopulation agenda. Beyond profit, there is a darker agenda at play within the healthcare system: depopulation. While the elite claim that their agenda is focused on sustainability and climate change, the reality is that they see humanity as a resource to be controlled, reduced, or eliminated. Several prominent figures within the globalist elite, including Henry Kissinger and David Rockefeller, have been associated with the push for population control. In many developing countries, sterilization programs disguised as health initiatives have been pushed, often without the full consent of the local population. These programs, which were funded by global organizations and the World Bank, sought to reduce birth rates in poor regions, claiming that fewer children would lead to less poverty and greater stability. However, this is part of a larger agenda to control the global population through medical manipulation and forced sterilization. GMOs, additives, and chemical toxins. Another component of the control agenda is the promotion of genetically modified organisms, GMOs, and chemical additives in food, which are pushed by big agribusiness and food corporations. These chemicals are designed to disrupt human health, creating a population that is chronically ill, dependent on pharmaceuticals, and vulnerable to disease. Many of the products we consume daily are loaded with chemicals, artificial sweeteners, and genetically modified ingredients, which have been shown to have serious long-term health consequences. Yet, the government and healthcare system are often silent about the health risks associated with these products because they are heavily lobbied by the same corporations that benefit from the widespread use of these chemicals. The goal: a controlled, dependent population. The ultimate goal of the healthcare system, as part of the New World Order's agenda, is to create a controlled population, a group of people who are dependent on medication, vaccines, and medical treatments that they can't afford or escape. By manipulating healthcare, creating dependency on pharmaceutical drugs, pushing vaccines, and controlling food and lifestyle, the elites ensure that people will never be able to resist the globalist agenda. Instead of being healthy and self-sufficient, individuals are kept weak, sick, and dependent on the very system that is meant to serve them. This makes them easy to control, manipulate, and profit from, ensuring that the New World Order's agenda for depopulation and power consolidation moves forward unchallenged. 9. The media is the propaganda arm of the New World Order. In today's world, the media is no longer a source of unbiased information. It is the primary tool used by the New World Order to manipulate and control public opinion. Whether it's television, radio, newspapers, or the internet, the mainstream media is controlled by a handful of corporations, all of which have ties to the elite globalist agenda. These media conglomerates work together to ensure that the narrative remains tightly controlled, stifling dissent and keeping the masses in the dark about the true workings of the world. Consolidation of media power. It's no coincidence that the vast majority of media outlets are controlled by a small group of powerful corporations. Companies like Disney, Comcast, Viacom-CBS, and Time Warner control virtually all of the mainstream television and entertainment networks, while news agencies like Reuters, Associated Press, and Bloomberg dictate the flow of news and information worldwide. This media consolidation ensures that a single narrative is pushed across multiple platforms, effectively shaping public perception and suppressing alternative viewpoints. By controlling the media, the elites can manufacture consent for wars, government policies, economic decisions, and social agendas. If a person only consumes mainstream news, they are fed a carefully curated narrative that supports the status quo and the globalist agenda. The media doesn't report the truth, they report what those in power want you to believe. Censorship and control of the narrative. The mainstream media isn't just about controlling the message, it's about suppressing the truth. Independent media outlets, alternative news websites, and social media influencers who challenge the establishment's narrative are often censored, deplatformed, or labeled as conspiracy theorists. This is part of the global agenda to silence dissent, making it increasingly difficult for alternative voices to be heard. Social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are notorious for shadow banning and deplatforming those who speak out against the government, corporate interests, or the mainstream media narrative. Topics like climate change skepticism, election fraud, government corruption, and vaccine safety are quickly suppressed or labeled as misinformation, even if there is legitimate evidence to the contrary. It's not just about controlling what is reported, it's about making sure that what isn't reported never reaches the public's consciousness. Powerful stories and revelations that could expose the true motives of the elite, such as corruption in the political system, the dangers of unchecked corporate power, or the real economic system, are hidden from view, so people remain uninformed and easy to manipulate. The manufactured crisis. One of the most effective tactics used by the media is the manufacturing of crises. These crises are often artificially created or heavily exaggerated to invoke fear, confusion, and compliance with the globalist agenda. Whether it's a pandemic, an economic collapse, or a terrorist attack, the media often works in lockstep with governments and global institutions to push a specific agenda in response to the crisis. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the mainstream media relentlessly pushed the narrative of fear and uncertainty, never questioning the overreach of government mandates, the long-term effects of lockdowns, or the safety of the vaccines. Instead, they aligned with global health organizations like the World Health Organization and national governments to promote centralized control. In a similar manner, the media often uses sensationalism and exaggerated reporting to keep people in a constant state of emotional reaction, be it from natural disasters, crime waves, or political unrest. This constant state of fear makes people more susceptible to manipulation, as they look to their leaders for guidance and protection, all while the elites push forward their agenda behind the scenes. The cult of personality and political manipulation. Another aspect of the media's control is its role in creating cult-like followings around political leaders and public figures. The media carefully crafts the image of politicians and celebrities to fit the narrative they want to sell. This is especially evident in the election process, where candidates are often hand-picked by elites and the media works to manufacture their public image, either to elevate them to power or to sabotage their opposition. Take, for instance, the media's portrayal of certain political figures like Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden. The media spends years crafting a narrative around these figures, making them either appear as saviors or villains, based on the elite's goals. These figures are puppets of the system, and the media plays a huge role in ensuring that the public perceives them as legitimate leaders, even if they are simply tools of the globalist elite. The 2016 U.S. election is a prime example. The media pushed the narrative of Hillary Clinton's inevitable victory, demonized Donald Trump at every opportunity, and manipulated the election coverage to sway public opinion. Similarly, in the 2020 election, media outlets were instrumental in pushing the idea that the election was stolen and in promoting the legitimacy of the Joe Biden administration, all while suppressing stories that could have exposed corruption or election fraud. The mainstream media's role in social engineering. The media isn't just shaping political opinion, it's also shaping societal norms and pushing globalist social agendas. For years, the media has promoted identity politics, social justice movements, and political correctness, all of which are used to divide society and create controlled opposition. The goal is to create fractures in society, so that people are more focused on their differences than on the true sources of power. Through the media, elites have created false narratives around race, gender, and class, distracting the public from the real issues, like corporate greed, government corruption, and the centralized control of the global financial system. These narratives are pushed through television shows, movies, news segments, and even advertisements, creating a uniform message that supports the globalist agenda. The solution: media independence. The only way to break free from the media's grip is for individuals to seek out alternative sources of information, to challenge mainstream narratives and question the messages they are being fed. By diversifying the media people consume and relying on independent journalism, we can start to break the chains of media manipulation. The truth is out there, but it's hidden beneath layers of propaganda, censorship, and corporate control. The more people take control of their own information and break free from the media's control, the harder it will be for the New World Order to maintain their grip on power. 10. Trump is part of the New World Order. The elites surrounding him tell the real story. While many see Donald Trump as an outsider or even a hero fighting against the establishment, the reality is much more complex. In fact, Trump has deep ties to the global elites and has been a key player in the New World Order agenda, intentionally or otherwise. His presidency, his wealth, and even his inauguration serve as evidence that he is a part of the same globalist system that he publicly claims to be opposed to. The elite attendees at Trump's inauguration. One of the clearest indicators that Trump is intertwined with the New World Order is the presence of the wealthiest and most influential global elites at his inauguration. Despite his campaign rhetoric about draining the swamp and standing up to the global elites, billionaires, corporate magnates, and political dynasties were prominently in attendance. The likes of Rupert Murdoch, the Koch brothers, and representatives from global financial institutions were all present to witness Trump swearing in as president. These individuals are not just casual supporters, they are part of the very elite class that controls global politics, finance, and media. If Trump were truly opposed to the New World Order, why would these figures be celebrating his rise to power? The answer is simple: Trump is playing a role in the same globalist game. His inauguration was a spectacle of elite unity, where the global elites and their corporate interests gathered to celebrate the installation of a man who, despite his populist rhetoric, was ultimately serving their interests. This cozy relationship between Trump and the power structures only further solidifies the idea that he is a puppet in a much larger globalist agenda. Trump's ties to the deep state and globalist interests. Another key point to consider is Trump's personal financial connections to the global elite. Trump himself is a billionaire, whose wealth is tied to international real estate deals, global markets, and multinational corporations. He has had dealings with figures who are key members of the global elite and institutions that are aligned with the New World Order's goals. Trump Tower is a luxury brand with global ties, and Trump has received investments from foreign governments, particularly from Russia, China, and the Middle East. These connections suggest that he has been part of the international financial network that the New World Order controls. Trump's business dealings have often been linked to global banks, such as Deutsche Bank, which has been involved in multiple scandals and is known for its connections to global financial elites and the deep state. Trump's corporate empire and his personal wealth place him firmly within the same circles that control the world's financial institutions, even if he pretends to challenge them. It's clear that his wealth and power are intricately tied to the global financial system that the New World Order seeks to control. The Trump administration and globalist policies. During Trump's presidency, despite his often anti-establishment rhetoric, many of his policies were directly aligned with the goals of the New World Order. He was supported by the Koch brothers, key financiers of the globalist agenda, and his tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations were precisely what global elites wanted. These tax cuts disproportionately benefited the billionaires and large multinational corporations that Trump often criticized, but who fund his campaign and make up his inner circle. Furthermore, Trump's foreign policy largely mirrored the agenda of the global elites. He may have criticized foreign entanglements during his campaign, but in office, he continued to support military interventions, NATO, and other institutions that serve global interests rather than those of the American people. Trump's administration was also unwavering in its support of the Federal Reserve, a key player in the globalist economic system. Trump's decisions on trade agreements, such as NAFTA and the TPP, also showed his alignment with globalist interests. While he claimed to oppose free trade during his campaign, many of his economic decisions ultimately benefited the multinational corporations that have long been a pillar of the New World Order's power. The Trump family's ties to the global elite. It's also important to look at Trump's family ties, particularly those of his daughter, Ivanka Trump, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Both Ivanka and Jared have close relationships with members of the global elite, and their business ventures are tied to international finance, real estate, and political connections that strengthen the New World Order's hold over global governance. If you like this video, please give us a like, subscribe because we have a new video every week. Now go back to the original topic. Jared Kushner's real estate investments, for example, are connected to international investors, including Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern powers, all of which are key members of the globalist agenda. Ivanka Trump's fashion line, which is produced under questionable labor practices in countries with corrupt regimes, only further reinforces the idea that the Trump family operates within the same global corporate structure that the elites use to manipulate and control the masses. Trump's role as a controlled opposition. While Trump may appear to be an outsider fighting for the people, he is ultimately just another figurehead in a larger globalist game. His outrageous personality, divisive rhetoric, and populist promises serve to distract and divide the American public, keeping them focused on superficial issues while the real agenda is carried out behind the scenes. Many of his policies, whether on immigration, economic inequality, or foreign affairs, ultimately benefit the elites he claims to oppose. His chaotic style and media-friendly persona only serve to distract from the fact that he is ultimately working with the same system that many claim he is fighting against. Trump's presidency was a perfect example of controlled opposition, a way to make people believe they have a choice while still keeping the New World Order's plans on track. Trump's inauguration, a symbol of elite power. In the end, the presence of so many elite figures at Trump's inauguration reveals the true nature of his presidency. He is not an outsider challenging the globalist agenda, but rather a figurehead chosen to carry out their will while giving the appearance of a populist rebellion. His inaugural address, despite being full of rhetoric about draining the swamp and fighting the elites, was little more than a performance designed to deceive the American people into believing that change was coming. But the truth is, nothing changed. The same corporate elites who control the world's wealth, media, and political systems still hold power, and Trump's presidency was just another episode in their ongoing effort to consolidate that power. Ultimately, the New World Order's reach is vast and undeniable, with figures like Trump playing a central role in advancing their agenda. While he may present himself as an outsider challenging the establishment, his connections to the global elite and the powerful forces around him show that he is, in fact, a key player in a carefully orchestrated system designed to maintain control and power under the guise of change.